If you give me just 90 days of your life, I'll show you how to rewrite your future. Not next year, not someday, now. What you're about to hear is not just motivation. This is a blueprint for power, wealth, and purpose, but only if you dare to do it. Are you ready to step into the next 90 days like your entire destiny depends on it? Because it does. If you want your life to look the same in 90 days, stop listening now. But if you're tired of watching others win while you sit on the sidelines of your own potential, then listen closely. What I'm about to tell you is not theory. It's not hype. It's the same timeless principle that turned failures into giants and poverty into power. The next 90 days can redefine you, but only if you do this. Everything begins with clarity. Nothing of significance was ever achieved by accident. The first and most critical step toward transforming your life in the next 90 days is to define with absolute precision your definite chief aim. This is not a casual wish or a fleeting interest. This is your central mission, the very reason you get out of bed each morning. It must be a goal so compelling, so emotionally charged, that it pulls you forward like gravity, even when the storms of life rage around you. Without this aim, your actions are scattered, your time is misused, and your results are watered down. But when your purpose is definite, your energy is focused like a laser, and your progress becomes inevitable. Let me give you a vivid example. Imagine a young man working a dead-end job, barely making ends meet. But every night before he sleeps, he writes down a single statement. I will earn $100,000, 0 cents a year, doing work I love by helping people transform their lives. He reads it aloud with emotion every morning and every night. He visualizes it. He rewrites it. He speaks as though it's already true. That statement is his definite chief aim. It's not just about the money. It's about the purpose, the service, the impact. That clarity shapes his decisions. When a distraction shows up, whether it's an unaligned job opportunity, a toxic relationship, or idle entertainment, he doesn't hesitate. He knows what serves the mission and what doesn't. Now imagine another person who says, I just want to be successful, or I want to be happy. What does that mean? It's vague. It has no measurable form. Without a defined aim, this person drifts, chasing shiny objects, falling for quick fixes, and changing direction with every new trend. Life does not reward the vague. Life bends to the will of those who are specific, determined, and disciplined in the pursuit of a singular goal. So, ask yourself, right now, what is the one goal that, if achieved, would change everything? Not 10 goals, not a to-do list. One clear, undeniable, all-consuming purpose. It must be written down in precise language. It must be written in conflict. It must be tied to a reason greater than comfort. It must be tied to legacy, service, or transformation. And it must become the mental blueprint by which you measure every choice you make from this moment forward. The mind is a fertile garden. Whatever you plant in it, whether weeds of doubt or seeds of purpose, will grow. Autosuggestion is the daily, deliberate act of planting thoughts of power, vision, and success into your subconscious mind until they become your reality. Every thought you dwell upon, every word you speak, every belief you rehearse, these are signals sent directly to the deeper part of your mind. And your subconscious does not judge. It accepts whatever it's given and works night and day to turn it into form. That's why most people stay stuck. They rehearse fear, lack, and limitation so consistently that their inner world can produce nothing else. But you can override that. You can take control of the inner dialogue. Daily autosuggestion is the method. It is the repetition of carefully crafted statements, spoken with feeling, spoken aloud, spoken with belief, even if that belief is shaky at first. These statements must align perfectly with your definite chief aim. If your goal is to become financially free through your own business, you do not simply wish for it occasionally. You affirm it daily. I am building a thriving business that earns me $10,000, 0 cents a month, serving people with integrity and passion. You do not whisper it. You speak it with power, with energy, and with certainty. You look yourself in the mirror and you say it like your life depends on it, because it does. Consider the example of a woman who once feared public speaking. Every time she imagined herself in front of a crowd, she trembled. But she began the practice of daily autosuggestion. Each morning she said aloud, I am a confident, powerful communicator. My words move people. I speak with ease, clarity, and courage. She wrote it down. She recorded it and listened to it. At first it felt like a lie, but after weeks of repetition, the subconscious accepted it as truth. And when she finally stood before a crowd, her voice was strong. Her message was clear. Why? Because she had rehearsed it internally long before it ever became external. Autosuggestion is not merely positive thinking. It is mental reprogramming. It is the act of feeding your inner world with such intensity and repetition that the outer world has no choice but to follow. The mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined reality and a lived one. So when you repeatedly affirm your desired outcome with emotion and conviction, the mind begins to operate in harmony with that vision. New ideas emerge. New habits form. New opportunities appear. This is not magic. It is cause and effect. And the cause begins with what you suggest to yourself every single day. Faith is not something you turn on when it's convenient. It is not a backup plan or a passive hope. Faith, real faith, is a force, an unwavering belief in the unseen, a trust in your vision so strong that you move forward before the evidence shows up. To act with relentless faith means you take bold steps toward your goal, even when logic says it's impossible, even when your environment hasn't caught up, even when your current reality is a contradiction to your dreams. Most people wait for proof before they act. But those who rise above the ordinary act as though the result is already guaranteed. They don't wait for the door to open. They walk up to the wall and build the door. Relentless faith means you don't just wish things would happen. You behave as though they already are. You get up early to work on your goal, not because someone is watching, but because you know your actions are shaping your future. You invest in your growth, even when the return isn't immediate, because you believe the seed you're planting will bear fruit. You speak your vision out loud, even when others roll their eyes, because you're not trying to convince them. You're reinforcing your own belief. And when setbacks come, and they will, you do not panic. You do not quit. You see them as temporary detours, not permanent defeats. Let's take the example of an aspiring author who dreams of publishing a best-selling book. At first, she has no audience, no publisher, no credentials. She has nothing but a burning desire and a deep belief that her words matter. So she writes daily, not when it's convenient, but when it's hard. She emails agents. She builds her presence. She studies the craft. People tell her to be realistic, but she keeps moving. Rejections come, but she does not fold. That's relentless faith in action. It's forward motion in the face of resistance. It's trusting in the outcome even when the world gives you every reason to doubt. And eventually her belief becomes contagious. Others start to believe too. Her book is picked up. Her story is shared. And the world calls it an overnight success, never knowing the years of invisible faith that paved the road to it. Acting with relentless faith is not about pretending challenges don't exist. It's about refusing to let them dictate your behavior. It's about holding the image of your goal so clearly in your mind that no circumstance, no opinion, no temporary failure can shake it from you. You move like it's already yours. You prepare for the opportunity before it arrives. You act not in reaction to what is, but in alignment with what will be. This level of conviction transforms you. It alters your posture, your decisions, your results. Because when you act with relentless faith, you stop acting if and start acting on when. Resistance is the price of progress. It is the friction that shows up the moment you decide to rise. The moment you set a clear goal, the moment you commit to changing your life, resistance appears, not because you're wrong, but because you're on the right path. The world does not hand out greatness freely. It tests you. It throws obstacles in your way, not to stop you, but to strengthen you. Most people interpret resistance as a sign to quit. They feel the discomfort, the setbacks, the failures, and they think, maybe this isn't meant for me. But those who understand the laws of achievement know better. They know that resistance is the signal that you're moving in the direction of growth. It is not a stop sign. It is a challenge to rise. Persistence through resistance means showing up when it's hard. It means doing the work when you don't feel like it, pushing forward when everything around you tells you to take the easy way out. It means understanding that the most successful people in the world aren't the most talented, they are the most persistent. They were willing to endure longer than others were willing to wait. They fell down more times than most people even tried. They heard no after no and still said yes to their vision. Resistance weeds out the half-hearted, but those who persist discover a power in themselves they never knew existed. Picture a man who has a vision to build a fitness brand that inspires millions. At first, his videos go unnoticed. His posts get no engagement. He pours time, energy, and money into his dream, and the world seems silent. This is where most stop, but he doesn't. Every day he creates. Every week he refines. He studies what works. He adapts. He gets better. He pushes through the criticism, the doubt, the long nights with no reward. Months go by before any traction appears. Then slowly, one video hits. One post spreads. One opportunity opens. Not because he was lucky, but because he refused to stop. The resistance didn't disappear. It was worn down by his persistence. When you persist, you send a signal to the universe, to your own subconscious, that you are serious. You are not just playing with potential, you are committed to it. Resistance may slow you, but it cannot defeat you unless you surrender. And every act of persistence carves character. It builds mental muscle. It turns you into someone who doesn't just reach the goal, but becomes worthy of it. Because nothing of value is ever handed over easily. It must be earned. And persistence is the currency. No one rises to greatness alone. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has behind them a team of minds united by belief, support, and shared vision. This is the power of the mastermind. It is not just a group. It is a force multiplier. A true mastermind is a collective of individuals, aligned in purpose, each bringing their unique strengths, ideas, and energy into a shared space. When you surround yourself with the right people, your thinking expands, your standards elevate, and your possibilities multiply. You stop thinking like an individual and start moving like a movement. Most people never achieve their potential, not because they lack talent, but because they are surrounded by the wrong influences. You cannot soar if you're tethered to people who are satisfied with crawling. You cannot build an empire with those who are content living in fear. You must consciously, deliberately, and relentlessly choose who gets access to your energy, your ideas, your momentum. A mastermind is not about popularity or comfort. It's about elevation. It's about being around people who challenge your excuses, who push you higher, who believe in your vision even when it's still invisible. And just as importantly, it's about you being that kind of force in return. Take, for example, a young entrepreneur who has a dream to launch a digital brand but no background in business. Alone, he struggles. His ideas feel scattered, his confidence weak. But then he finds a mastermind, a group of entrepreneurs, dreamers, builders. He joins weekly calls, shares his progress, receives feedback, absorbs strategies he never would have discovered on his own. He watches how others solve problems, how they speak with confidence, how they deal with failure. He borrows their belief until it becomes his own. He begins to move differently. He sets bigger goals. He shows up with purpose. The group becomes more than support. It becomes fuel. In the presence of a true mastermind, average becomes uncomfortable. You think bigger simply because those around you expect you to. You get honest feedback instead of sugar-coated flattery. You gain access to ideas, resources, and connections that would have taken years to discover on your own. And more than anything, you realize you're not in this alone. Isolation is the enemy of achievement, but aligned association is its greatest ally. The right mastermind does not just keep you accountable, it pulls the greatness out of you, piece by piece, until your future becomes a reflection of your inner circle. Progress is not powered by intensity alone, it's sustained through awareness. What you measure, you improve. What you reflect on, you refine. And if you truly want the next 90 days to create lasting transformation, then you must commit not only to action, but to reflection. Daily tracking is the practice of observing your behavior, your results, your energy, and your focus with brutal honesty. It's how you turn intention into improvement. It's how you stop drifting through days and start directing them with precision. You cannot grow what you do not track, and you cannot evolve what you do not examine. Most people live reactively, rushing through their days without ever pausing to ask, did I actually move forward today? But when you take 5, 10, even 15 minutes at the end of each day to reflect, everything changes. You start to see patterns. You notice what fuels you and what drains you. You identify what actions lead to progress and which ones waste time. You begin to spot the small hinges that swing big doors. You stop guessing and start making data-driven decisions, not with charts and complexity, but with focused self-awareness. And that awareness sharpens your aim day after day until your trajectory is no longer random, but intentional. Imagine a man working toward his fitness and business goals. Each evening before going to bed, he opens a notebook and answers 5 simple questions. What did I do today to move toward my goal? What challenged me? What did I learn? What can I do better tomorrow? How do I feel about my effort? At first, the answers are short. Sometimes he forgets or skips. But over time, the habit takes root. He begins to spot where he loses focus, scrolling too long, starting tasks but not finishing. He notices which habits boost his productivity, morning workouts, planning the night before, shutting off distractions. He starts the next day with clarity because he ended the last one with reflection. This process of tracking and reflecting doesn't just keep you accountable, it evolves you. It keeps your goal at the forefront of your mind. It reminds you that each day matters, that momentum is not found in dramatic leaps, but in consistent, conscious steps. It builds a quiet discipline, one that doesn't rely on motivation, but on commitment. Over time, those who track begin to outperform those who don't, not because they work harder, but because they work smarter. They adjust faster, they learn quicker, they grow deeper, and their results compound with quiet, steady force.